They came with fighter jets, armored tanks and bombs, but they didn't expect this. In the forests of Umaka and Okigwe, something extraordinary just happened. The Biafran Liberation Army didn't run, they didn't hide, they stood their ground, and what followed was a battle that shook southeastern Nigeria to its core. Who really sent the invaders? Why did they open fire on civilian villages instead of facing the fighters directly? And why is no one talking about the CCTV footage that shows the shocking truth? This isn't just another conflict. This is organized warfare. There are whispers that the Nigerian state is backing the attackers, and while bombs rained down on homes, brave men stood up with nothing but courage and determination. What does this mean for the future of Biafra? Is the world finally ready to listen? You're about to witness what the mainstream media won't show you, the real face of the Biafran struggle. Stay with us, because what happens next could change everything. The world is watching, the forest is speaking, and history is being written right now. Biafran Liberation Army Special Forces engaged in intense firefights with armed groups allegedly linked to Musa and Asari Dokubo in Umaka, Imo State, pushing them back despite aerial and ground assaults. The attackers used fighter jets and armored tanks to bomb villages and destroy properties, but the Biafran forces reportedly resisted fiercely, causing several of the invading forces to retreat. Face-to-face combat occurred between the Biafran Liberation Army and the attackers. Biafran fighters destroyed enemy vehicles and resisted occupation attempts. CCTV footage reportedly shows invading forces indiscriminately shooting and destroying homes without directly confronting the Biafran fighters in the forests. A critic insists that Biafran fighters are stationed across many parts of Imo State and other regions, actively defending their land from what they describe as terrorist incursions. The critic accuses the Nigerian government, DSS and military of sponsoring terror against Biafrans and refusing to release Nnamdi Kanu, citing systemic oppression and deception. He highlights division among pro-Biafran groups since Simon Ekpa's arrest in Finland, accusing some individuals of betrayal and collaboration with the Nigerian state. The critic appeals to the international community to recognize the Biafran struggle and praises diasporan efforts to raise awareness, distribute pamphlets, and fund the cause. The critic dismisses talk of bylaws or alternative leadership structures, affirming that Simon Ekpa is the recognized prime minister and that the Biafran government has a working constitution. He urged Biafrans to continue donating to support the struggle, with assurances that the movement is gaining international support and nearing global recognition. The story unfolding from Umaka and Okigwe in Imo State is one of deep conflict, intense struggle, and far-reaching consequences. At the heart of this event lies a major crisis that has been growing for years, a fierce power struggle between groups vying for control over southeastern Nigeria, deeply tied to the long-standing push for Biafran independence. What happened in this recent clash is not an isolated incident, but part of a larger, deeply rooted conflict involving political marginalization, historical grievances, military interventions, and a desperate call for international attention. To begin understanding the situation, one must first look at the core problem, the violent confrontation between the Biafran Liberation Army and armed groups loyal to Musa Gumi and Asari Dokubo. These are not ordinary confrontations. They are military-grade firefights that involve sophisticated weapons, armored tanks, and even airstrikes, indicating that what is going on is far beyond community skirmishes. This is organized warfare. The reported presence of fighter jets and armored vehicles points to one harsh reality. The attacks on Biafran strongholds may be backed by state-level military resources or by heavily armed militias with access to powerful weaponry. In the recent events in Umaka and Okigwe, the Biafran Liberation Army, also referred to as the BLA, came face-to-face with the forces said to be loyal to Musa Gumi and Asari Dokubo. These two names have become controversial in the context of the Biafran crisis. Asari Dokubo, a former militant leader from the Niger Delta region, has long maintained a complex relationship with both the Nigerian state and the idea of self-determination. While he has sometimes supported autonomy for the Ijaw people, his open opposition to Biafran independence has made him a fierce enemy of the BLA and its allies. Musa Gumi is often linked in the minds of Biafrans to northern military figures, making his name symbolic of northern dominance and alleged repression. The core problem here is the use of violence and terror tactics to forcefully suppress a separatist movement. The Biafran fighters and many of their sympathizers believe that the Nigerian state, through covert and overt means, is supporting attacks on Biafran territories. These allegations are not new, but the scale of destruction in Umaka and Okigwe has escalated the narrative to new heights. What triggered this most recent battle appears to be an invasion attempt by the Musa and Asari-linked forces, who reportedly moved into Biafran territory under the cover of military-style bombing campaigns. They targeted villages with fighter jets and ground forces, leading to the destruction of homes, property, and even the loss of civilian lives. However, despite the use of such overwhelming force, the Biafran Liberation Army did not surrender. Instead, they engaged the invaders in fierce ground battles, pushing back and reportedly destroying enemy vehicles. This wasn't just guerrilla warfare in the forests. It was direct, face-to-face combat, showing how determined and organized the BLA has become. The fact that the BLA could resist a force with tanks and air power is not just impressive to their supporters, it signals a significant shift in power dynamics in the region. CCTV footage reportedly captured some of the atrocities committed during the raid. Instead of directly engaging with Biafran fighters, the invading forces were seen firing indiscriminately into villages, destroying civilian homes and infrastructure, while avoiding the forests where BLA fighters were positioned. This has led to renewed accusations of war crimes and deliberate targeting of innocent civilians. Such footage, if verified by international observers, could bring enormous pressure on the Nigerian government, as it might be seen as supporting groups accused of attacking its own citizens. The consequences of these attacks are enormous and multidimensional. On the humanitarian level, many families have been displaced. Villages have been turned into rubble. Children have been forced to flee with their parents into forests or neighboring towns. Livelihoods built over decades have been destroyed in a matter of hours. Beyond the physical destruction is the psychological trauma, the fear, grief, and anger that have now become a daily reality for many in these communities. Politically, the attacks have deepened mistrust between the Biafran separatists and the Nigerian government. The critic who spoke out in the aftermath of the Umaka and Okigwe attacks emphasized that this is not simply a military crisis. He said it is part of a broader political deception and systemic oppression of the Igbo people. He directly accused the Department of State Services, DSS, the Nigerian military, and the political leadership of supporting terror against the Biafrans, while refusing to address their legitimate political demands, such as the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, ipob. The arrest of Simon Ekpa in Finland earlier this year added another layer of complexity to the situation. Since his detention, divisions have emerged among various Biafran groups. Some have questioned Ekpa's authority, while others remain fiercely loyal to him. The critic who spoke after the clashes was adamant that Simon Ekpa remains the Prime Minister of Biafra, and that no alternative leadership or bylaw-based structures will be accepted. This unwavering loyalty shows the level of trust his followers still have in him, despite his physical absence from the battlefield. However, not everyone within the movement agrees. The critic pointed out that some individuals within the pro-Biafran movement have allegedly betrayed the cause by collaborating with the Nigerian state, either for money, personal gain, or under coercion. This internal conflict makes it harder for the movement to present a united front. Still, diaspora communities, particularly in Europe and North America, are stepping in to bridge the gap. They have been distributing pamphlets, organizing protests, lobbying lawmakers, and raising funds to support the cause. The appeal to the international community remains a major theme in the aftermath of the battle. The critic passionately called on global leaders, human rights organizations, and international courts to recognize the Biafran struggle as legitimate and deserving of support. He emphasized that Biafrans are not terrorists, but a people seeking freedom, peace, and dignity after decades of marginalization. This leaves the obvious question: what are the possible solutions to this growing crisis, and how far are we from reaching them? The first and most urgent step would be to stop the violence. That means putting an immediate end to the bombing of villages, withdrawal of all unauthorized militias, and establishing neutral humanitarian corridors to assist displaced civilians. Peace cannot be discussed when people are being attacked, killed, and rendered homeless. Second, there needs to be an open and inclusive political dialogue, not behind closed doors in Abuja or Helsinki, but on international platforms where neutral mediators and observers are present. The continued detention of Nnamdi Kanu and the arrest of Simon Ekpa have not weakened the movement. Instead, they have made martyrs out of them and energized their supporters. A solution cannot come by silencing voices. It must involve listening, negotiating, and respecting the aspirations of the people. Third, international recognition, or at least acknowledgement of the Biafran plight, must begin. Whether or not the world agrees with secession, the evidence of violence, persecution, and military abuse needs to be investigated. The reported use of fighter jets and tanks against civilians cannot be ignored by the global community. Independent bodies must be allowed to enter southeastern Nigeria to assess the situation firsthand. How far are we from this solution? Sadly, the answer remains complicated. On one hand, the Nigerian government continues to reject any form of secession and views Biafran groups as threats to national security. On the other hand, the growing international pressure, especially from Biafran diaspora communities, is making it harder for the government to control the narrative. There are signs that more people around the world are beginning to ask questions, demand answers, and challenge the silence of powerful global institutions. The determination of Biafran forces to defend their territory, as seen in the Umaka and Okigwe battles, proves that this is not a temporary rebellion. It is a deeply rooted movement driven by generational grievances and a strong desire for autonomy. The resilience of these fighters, even when facing airstrikes, reveals just how seriously they take their mission. At the same time, the involvement of armed groups loyal to figures like Asari Dokubo and Musa Gumi points to a dangerous game of proxy warfare. If not checked, this could lead to a full-scale civil war, something no one, not even Nigeria's neighbors, wants to see happen. In conclusion, the events in Umaka and Okigwe are a stark reminder of the deep wounds that remain unhealed in Nigeria. The Biafran Liberation Army's successful resistance against heavily armed attackers may be celebrated by their supporters, but the reality is that every such battle adds to the toll of pain, destruction, and mistrust. Peace will not come by force. It will only come when all parties, including the government, the fighters, and the international community, acknowledge the problem, confront the truth, and commit to justice. Until then, the struggle continues, not just in the forests of Imo State, but in the hearts and voices of millions who still believe in the dream of Biafra. The aftermath of the battle in Umaka and Okigwe, Imo State, continues to send shockwaves across southeastern Nigeria and beyond. The event has not only exposed the rawness of the conflict, but has also laid bare the failures of dialogue, governance, and reconciliation. As communities count their losses, the Biafran Liberation Army, BLA, reinforces its foothold in the region, while questions about Nigeria's future unity grow louder. In this expanded report, we will continue examining the unfolding consequences, the mood of the people, the ripple effects in the diaspora, the unspoken truths behind the silence of key institutions, and what the road ahead might look like for both Biafrans and the Nigerian state. In the towns of Umaka and Okigwe, a silence now lingers, not the kind of silence that suggests peace, but the heavy, anxious quiet that follows violence. The scent of burnt homes lingers in the air. Residents, some of whom fled into surrounding forests during the assault, have begun trickling back into their communities, only to find shattered buildings, flattened shops, empty streets, and in some cases, unburied corpses. Entire families are displaced, living in fear of another round of attacks, not knowing if the forces they escaped will return. Eyewitness accounts confirm that the invading forces, believed to be loyal to Musa Gumi and Asari Dokubo, arrived heavily armed, dressed in military camouflage, and carrying sophisticated weapons. Some even drove marked military vehicles, which raises the critical question: who gave them access to such resources? Locals insist that these militias didn't behave like independent actors. Instead, they moved with the kind of coordination and firepower that many associate with trained forces backed by a state or a powerful sponsor. Community leaders in Okigwe describe how their town was bombarded from the air. They talk of low-flying fighter jets and thunderous explosions that flattened entire compounds. Some residents swear they saw the attackers being guided by individuals who spoke Hausa and Fulani dialects, a detail that has only increased suspicions among the Biafran population that this wasn't just a random attack, but a calculated military operation carried out with insider support. The Biafran Liberation Army, which has often operated in secrecy, was forced to respond openly and with full strength. Video footage circulating on social media shows their fighters launching counterattacks, moving swiftly through dense bush paths, setting up ambushes, and using homemade but effective weapons to stop advancing tanks. According to BLA commanders who later gave anonymous interviews to independent journalists, the fighters had been on high alert for weeks, following intelligence reports of an impending attack from multiple flanks. "We knew they were coming," said one BLA unit leader, "but we didn't know they would bomb civilian homes. That made us more determined. We're not just defending land, we're defending our people, our mothers, our future." His voice, calm yet filled with emotion, captured the sentiment shared by many fighters who now view the struggle not just as a political fight for independence, but as a life-and-death mission to protect their families and culture from what they see as extinction. Meanwhile, the Nigerian government has maintained a deafening silence. No official statement has been issued acknowledging the battle, the bombings, or the deaths. This lack of response has further fueled anger and distrust among Biafrans who believe the state is complicit, if not directly involved, in attacks on its own citizens. Many ask, if the Nigerian Air Force did not authorize these jets, then who did? If the military is not behind the tanks, then why haven't they investigated and arrested those responsible? In respo NSE to the silence, Biafran groups across the diaspora have become more vocal. From Helsinki to Houston, Biafran activists are organizing protests, holding prayer vigils, and demanding justice. In London, a group of British Nigerians staged a rally outside the Nigerian High Commission, waving Biafran flags and holding banners that read, "Stop killing Biafrans," and "Release Nnamdi Kanu now." In Canada, Biafran supporters delivered a letter to Parliament, urging lawmakers to place Nigeria under human rights scrutiny. The international response so far has been muted, but that may be changing. Human rights organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have begun preliminary investigations into the events in Umaka and Okigwe. Their representatives are reportedly analyzing video footage, interviewing survivors, and collecting satellite imagery to verify the extent of the damage. If these findings confirm that civilians were bombed and killed by foreign or state-sponsored militias, it could lead to serious diplomatic repercussions for Nigeria. Beyond the physical fighting, the Biafran movement is now entering a phase of intense internal reckoning. While many remain loyal to Simon Ekpa, others are beginning to ask critical questions about leadership, accountability, and the sustainability of a military resistance model. The critic who spoke after the attack warned against forming splinter groups or creating what he described as fake bylaws and false governments. According to him, there is only one recognized Prime Minister, Simon Ekpa, and the constitution guiding the Biafran movement was created under his leadership, with input from international lawyers and human rights experts. He emphasized that this is not the time for division, but for unity. He called on Biafrans at home and abroad to remain focused and continue donating to the cause. He also praised those in the diaspora who have remained consistent in printing flyers, hosting town halls, and lobbying foreign governments to recognize Biafra's struggle as a legitimate self-determination movement and not terrorism, as portrayed by some Nigerian officials. The psychological effects of the recent clashes are another layer of the unfolding crisis. Children have been traumatized by the sight of tanks and jets. Women have been widowed. Entire communities now suffer from what trauma counselors describe as war zone syndrome, a mix of anxiety, fear, anger, and hopelessness. Schools in parts of Umaka have shut down indefinitely, while hospitals are overcrowded with burn victims, amputees, and others injured during the bombings. Local churches and mosques have turned into makeshift shelters, offering food and temporary lodging to those who have lost everything. Internationally, there is growing awareness that Nigeria is a powder keg, a fragile federation held together by a mix of oil revenue, military force, and silence. With the Biafran crisis escalating, there is a growing risk that what happened in Umaka and Okigwe could soon happen in other parts of southeastern Nigeria, or worse, that it could trigger a full-scale civil war. Already there are reports of military build-ups near the borders of Anambra, Abia, and Ebonyi states. BLA intelligence sources warn that coordinated attacks may be planned in the coming weeks to further weaken the morale of Biafran forces and force them into surrender. But if the events of the last week prove anything, it is that surrender is not in the vocabulary of the BLA or the larger Biafran movement. What began as a largely symbolic struggle decades ago has now transformed into an armed resistance backed by thousands across multiple continents. The internet has changed everything. Videos, testimonies, live reports, and even drone footage are now helping shape global opinion. Where once Biafrans felt isolated and forgotten, they now know their voices are being heard, not everywhere, but in enough places to spark hope. Still, the struggle is far from over. The most pressing question now is whether Nigeria will choose the path of peace or further provocation. Will it investigate the attacks in Umaka and Okigwe? Will it engage in open dialogue with Biafran leaders? Will it release Nnamdi Kanu as a gesture of goodwill and reconciliation? Or will it double down, using more force, more propaganda, and more suppression? From the forest fighters in Imo State to the political activists in Finland and Germany, the message from Biafrans remains clear. The world must pay attention. Lives are being lost. A people are being erased. And yet, within this tragedy lies the hope that if justice can prevail, through the courts, through international diplomacy, or through global advocacy, then the cycle of violence can end.
The men of Gentle de Yahoo is doing the needful. The Biafra Liberation Army, the Omoma, they are doing the needful now.
If you like, agree, oh. If you like, no agree. And I don't want to know. I don't want to see you. Whether they want time or they don't want time. This is Biafra, now we get that. And it must come. Because Mazi don't talk am for long. We will kill them, they will kill us. At the end, Biafra will come. So, Nigeria Zoo, what I know myself, what I know now, I'm going. What I know, Jadeva, I'm going. He never even touch our body, talk less of to reach us forward. What's up? Oh, I'm again and a Biafran soldiers, not in the sub. It is unknown to men, man, even active. Men that active, no be whining.
Remember what I told you many years ago? They will kill us, we will kill them, in the end Biafra will come. Everything I tell you comes to pass. They will, they are janjaweed, they will come, they are foolish. By nature, they are very hopeless. They will come. This time around, we will turn Biafra land into a burial ground for terrorists. They will understand how serious we are. We have raised it, it's no longer coming down until freedom is declared. They understand that very well. They understand that very well. What will kill Fulani is hubris. Hubris will kill you. I told you I will draw your army to the east. As I draw your army into the east, Pharaohs will occupy your land, and it's going to happen. Because I know you have stupid pride and ego. You will take the bait because you're Fulani, you're foolish. You will take this bait I'm handing over to you. You will come to Biafra land there, we are going to kill you. You will die in Biafra land. You are going to perish there. Your army will die in Biafra land.
Yeah, Biafrans, I want you to understand the reason why the Nigerian federal government is still delaying of the unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu. Nigerian terrorist government under the watch of Hope Osadema and the detector of the DSS and the Nigerian terrorist soldiers, they are now live in Okigwe right now. And the men of Biafra Liberation Army is engaging them man to man. Put call, you understand. And I want to use this opportunity to enlighten the people of Ako to be security conscious, because the enemy, the terrorists who are aiding the Fulanis of killing our people, they have come. The Fulanis in military uniform have come to kill people in Ako, in Ihube, in Omolola, in Arondizog, in Abobo, in all the axes that connect the Okigwe axis. So I want the Biafran, the international community, for them to understand there's a war that is going on now. I am reporting this information because there's a serious war that is going on now. And now this is not a cool evening. There's a very serious war. I want you to watch this camera, this video, and see how the war is going. The men of Gentle de Yahoo is doing the needful. The Biafra Liberation Army, the Omoma, they are doing the needful now. So it is time for the people of Okigwe to be security conscious. Guard your environment, guard your houses, guard everything about you. Watch and see and share it to your loved ones. Happening live and direct in Okigwe.
Why you? Once you could get like this, man confirm on over and do it. Man confirm on even self, it went off wolf, off where. Even I may clear to the extent self, go for two. Even you got forget for Kaga. Now we're gonna Biafra. Or nothing. Favorite to me, but in a chain. Biafra, even come on. Oh, Biafra can go again. I know Biafra or nothing. They could do me. I do okay. I go out there. I will Megan. On your own, we all Biafra. I want you don't have to go for go. I go out there. I will tell them. I swear. I swear. They can let them to go give them what they have got. I didn't use it. Yeah. Come on. Even some people they reason say why Chineke never how they work after. Then when after that they can't trap again Nigeria na just Jesus. Na Jesus zu country. I want to how na Biafra. They don't see anything, they don't get anything. Why they don't want to leave that? Why they don't want to leave Biafra? You see, say inside there that thing will even more than gold, more than silver. Even how the world best. Indigenous people, the Igbo. Oh,
I tell you all, the condition of Biafra before our declaration and one single day after the 29th of November has changed. It's no longer the same. And that was what our Prime Minister and our Union did not come forward for. To make sure we have those legal documents to defend Biafra. We have those documents right now. That there are a couple of some people working for the Nigerian state just trying to deceive people either on Twitter space, online, trying to pretend as if they are part of what we're doing. Meanwhile, they are not. again, these media sites or individuals, they pretend there's one called Ross. These are the criminal elements paid by the Nigerian state to be parading themselves on Twitter or other places as if they are part. Biafrans, ignore these people. They are not part of what we are doing. They are paid to destroy what we are doing. Just like this Elias, these lobbyists, Elias and Dabili, are paid to destroy what we're doing. They thought Odogu is not coming out, but it's coming out very soon. So that was the one called himself Biafra Unite, the one, this riffraff called Oremi Juice. I just have to let out some of these names because why some Biafrans, the true ones, already know them. I also want to every now and then let Biafrans know that these criminals are paid to do what they do. So when you hear them talking about restoration of Biafra, restoration was, please ignore them. They are the paid agents of the Nigerian state. They are doing exactly the same thing with the one called Elias. I think on that note, again, we're going to be having a couple of changes in some of the states based on where we are. And again, everybody is working hard. But at this time, this critical time, there might be one or few changes in the administration of few states in Biafra land to ensure that we get the right hands we need to really confront these terrorists in this final push. And again, it's not undermining any governors or any administrator's job, but we want to ensure that we move with a speed. We are working towards our recognition, and we're getting a lot of support from the international community, from some world leaders, and Biafrans, you should be very, very happy of how far and how well we are doing. In the next couple of weeks or months, we all will be getting some great news about the support we are getting. While we are doing that, we will continue to defend our land. That is why we do this fundraising. Please continue to donate your money. You have no clue how many innocent Biafrans President Tinubu and Christopher Musa locked up in different cells across Nigeria and across Biafra land with the delegitimized governor Soludo Akpo. Many of our innocent men and women are locked up for nothing, just for being Biafrans. And part of this money, this fundraising, we use that to bail all these people, bring them out, because they've committed no crime. But the order from above, from the Nigerian state, is anybody talking about Biafra is termed a terrorist. Arrest them. And nobody should talk anything about them. That is the order these criminals gave to those working under them. From first-hand information from our Biafrans working in those DSS. That is the order from Christopher Musa, that any innocent Biafran they arrest. Nobody should say anything about them. Even when their family members go to search for them, even when they know they are in that building, they refuse to give them information about these innocent Biafrans. How long are we going to just keep quiet while they continue to take away our kids, take away our brothers and sisters for nothing, for no crime, just because we've declared that we will protect our land? So the instructions to all the commanders, all the executive governors, is to protect your land. These reintegrated terrorists, any Nigerian agent inside Biafra land, we've peacefully told you to leave. You must leave. The governors and the commanders, these terrorists must leave our land. We will make them leave. If we don't make them leave, they will make us leave. If we don't take them out, they will take us out. So they will leave our land. We want to start rebuilding our nation. Thank you so much, Biafrans, and all the listeners. Please continue to donate. I thank you all that you will think that the little, the $1, the $10 you're donating is nothing, but I am telling you, it goes a long way. And I also want to thank our private donors, those that do not want to be heard. Please continue to donate. We are winning this game. We are protecting our land, and the results are there. The delegitimized governors, they are shaking. Tinubu is shaking. Christopher Musa is shaking, because I tell you all, the condition of Biafra before our declaration and one single day after the 29th of November has changed. It's no longer the same. And that was what our Prime Minister and our Union didn't have to come up no fought for. To make sure we have those legal documents to defend Biafra. We have those documents right now. And that's exactly what we are using and what we are going to be using to defend our land. So anyone that came out from any corner to tell you that there is a bylaw somewhere that they paid somebody $20,000 to make for them, these are fraud and criminal individuals in this ex-Brigade cabinet member. Ask yourself, if the Prime Minister Simon Ekpa has approved, have gone through the constitution of Biafra and introduced the constitution, the 40 state constitution to us, what are the criminals doing? We're talking about bylaws. We have a constitution which we have started working with some portions of that constitution. So there's nothing like bylaw. There's nothing like CLC. These are people existing on the air. There is no root for them, and do not pay any attention to what they do. Family, go ahead. Thank you so much, dear friends.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.